Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In today's video, I want to talk a little bit about what happens when the conversation with our caretakers or parents or siblings doesn't really work out and our pain is not understood or acknowledged, or we are not even able to express ourselves. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. I want to talk about the phrases that I hear so often and that I heard as well in my past, which is something like, you are oversensitive, or you need to stop now. This has no value here and you need to move on. Why don't you move on? Like all those kind of shaming sentences that are very painful to hear when you are trying to express yourself, when you are trying to share from deep within what has been your pain, even though it's probably really hard for you to even open up and to share that, and then you're completely left alone again with how you felt, right? So I want to give you a little insight on this one because I feel there are many people out there, myself included, just by the way, who have been at the place where there hasn't been any real talk, real talk, so that things can go back into a more and deeper connection. And it's sad, actually. It's sad that we are not able to get this into common ground where we are not judging each other, we are not punishing each other or shaming each other, but we are just sitting there and sharing how we felt, because that would actually help us grow on the long run. But somehow there are many, many things why this is not working the way we would like it to. With this said, let's dive into the video. Before I do that, my name is Patricia. I'm a life coach. And if you're new on my channel, then the content I'm sharing here is all about being more self-aware and learning to create your life, because you're ultimately all the time creating. The question is, do you know what you are creating? Do you know how you're creating all day long? And so if you're unaware of that, and many people are, then we are constantly creating either way something we don't want, something from the past we are calling back into our life, or we are creating a future that we totally actually wouldn't have chosen in a conscious way. And so I want you to be more aware of what you are creating, because you are creating regardless if you are aware or not, right? So with this said, let's start this video, and I really want to invite you. My cat is playing, so she's enjoying the playtime session. I don't know. I want you to grab a journal and write down your thoughts, your ideas, because those are the moments where we are actually learning the most, and we can write down what really has been in the past painful for us, right? So this video is intended to give you more peace. It will not necessarily clear out the conflict you have with your parents or with your siblings, but what it will do is it will give you some calmer waters to swim in. And it's the most important thing that you start to realize that regardless if you are getting back into communication with them, if you're not at all in communication, or if you want to deepen the relationship, or if you have been one of those people who just try to have the harmony, even though there's a lot in the air going on. Regardless, actually, I believe the most important thing is that you remain in a peaceful state, regardless if this is working out or not, you see, because this is the only thing that you can really control. This is the only thing that is really in your responsibility. Okay, so there will be always more than one person is required to make this connection new and drive this into a new direction, right? So if there is only one person who wants to have a better relationship and who wants to deepen the relationship, but this doesn't work because there is no communication really going on, then there is not really much for you to do, but you have to find peace with the situation. And I'm not going to say that you need to forgive, because see, forgiveness is something that you can't really force. And so I can tell you now that you need to forgive to move on, or that you need to talk to the people or to the person like immediately to really get this fresh and start new. I believe everything that you have forced is not going to work out that well and is not really in your favor. You see, if you have to force something so badly, I think especially in this one, I think take your time. Take your time. Think this whole thing through, you know. If you have been in pain for quite many years, and actually many people have, because many people feel unheard, unloved, rejected, frustrated. And so most of this comes because our needs were not met when we were a child. And this is something where we really have to understand this part, that we all had our needs as a child, and when these needs are not met, when you kind of feel like you have to perform to receive love, when you kind of feel like you need to always be in the doing, you need to make, you know, maybe bringing home, and this was for me, right, bringing home good grades from school, or trying to somehow get their attention because I was doing something great, or I was kind of trying to prove myself as a child. Look how good I am. Now you can give me the love, right? Now you can show me your attention. And here's the thing, don't get confused with attention and love. This is not the same, okay? Attention and love is something completely different. And I received mostly attention because I wasn't behaving the way I should have. And so I got confused as to with love, and has nothing really to do with it, right? So if you have heard from your parents, maybe, or from your caretakers, or from any other people that were close to you, maybe even your grandma or your teacher, or people who were close to you in your very young age, so you have to recognize how has their relationship been to each other, to other friends, family, whatsoever, because those relationships, especially intimate relationships, are the ones that are affecting you on the long run. So you will always look out for those kind of relationships, and those relationships are the ones that have shaped you. And as a child, you have not that many options. As a child, it's either way, attachment or being who you are, being authentic. And so most of the time we go for attachment because the attachment means safety. And safety, protection is more important than being authentic. It's more important than showing up for who you really are. So you will neglect yourself. You will stop being fully yourself to fit into their own system, right? You try to fit into the tribe. And this is nothing, it's nothing wrong with you, it's nothing wrong with the caretakers necessarily. It's about when we are going into adulthood to understand, hey, this has been very, very painful for me. And I would actually like to discuss. I would like to share. And I want to hear how you have been in that situation. And I would like to hear your story, right? Like, why have you done the way you do, right? Why have you done that? And there is one person who I have been listening to. Actually, it's quite long ago. I forgot her name. If I find her name, I will drop it in the comments. Um, she's an author and writes poetry. And it was beautiful because she was saying something like, if someone has caused you pain previously, and if someone is not really open to talk to you, why do you need the proof for your pain from them? Why do you need the acknowledgement that they actually have hurted you? Don't you remember? Don't you remember your pain? Do you believe that if they tell you sorry, if they say anything that makes it soothen, do you think that this makes it better? Answer from her was no. And I think that's really, really, really true. It's hard to accept, right? It's really hard to accept. Now, this isn't about just ignoring how you feel, right? This isn't about I ignore how I feel because they don't see that and they don't acknowledge it, and there is just no common ground. Well, we have to understand these are generations, there are differences, and there is the very big and huge difference where we often are I have to say, like, we don't have to neglect ourselves anymore if our pain has not been acknowledged, because we don't depend on them anymore. See, we are not depending on them anymore, and this is where the trick basically happens, right? Because you start to go from the attachment, from the security, and from the protection. You start to giving this to yourself. You start to open up more to yourself, and because of that, you start to be more authentic. You start to be more who you are. You start to show up more as who you are. And this is then actually going to trigger your parents or caretakers or people you are close. And there is a high possibility that they will say something like, you're oversensitive, get over it, this is not true. And they will start to shame you, they will start to blame you, they will start to judge you, and all of those things. But really, it doesn't really matter, because the shame and the guilt and everything they say, it has been there before, it just has not been outspoken. And so just because they speak that out right now doesn't mean that anything really changed from their side. It's still there. It has always been there. It's just outspoken now. And I remember one very crazy sentence I heard, and it was very much painful. It was something like, I was always really really proud of you, but now that you have done this, now that you have changed your career, now that you have moved into this and this, which is really crazy, because this is ultimately what really makes me happy and what makes me smile. And it was so hard for me to hear, but I knew all of this before. You see, I knew that There will be no acknowledgement for my pain or for my suffering. There will be no understanding. And if we are waiting for to be understood, we may wait until forever. See, we don't need people to understand our pain. Yet I'm a high believer that if we want to have a deeper connection, if we want to go deeper with people, and obviously family isn't excluded there, if we want that, right? We need both parties to agree to do this work and to actually sit down and to talk, to open up, to be open, to feel the other person's pain and to hold space. And you're not here to skip that part. You see, you're not here to do this ever again, to skip, because you cannot skip yourself. You can't. If you have reached this level, you can't skip yourself. You can't say no to yourself anymore, because you started to see all your pain. You started to see yourself. You started to acknowledge who you are, and it's impossible to move back to the old self you once were, who was like this small and who didn't know how to express, who didn't know how to fully acknowledge who you were. And so the more we get into the peace within ourselves, we can find layers of relief. We can find layers that are actually giving us peace in the situation. And regardless if you are building up the connection new, regardless if the connection is not there at all, it's on you to make peace with the situation, but not because of them, not because you need to forgive them, you know? And especially not if they're saying something like, but you are my daughter, or you're my son, you need to love me, you need to blah. You don't need anything, you see. That's again where conditions are made, and you don't have to agree on those terms anymore. You can say something like, well, maybe that's true, but there are also other truths, and I just feel that this is not really working for me. I feel this is not healthy for me. And you can say all of this in a most calm way, in a peaceful way, without screaming, without crying, without, I think I've cried in my past so many times about the whole scenario of how I felt. And the truth is, you can give yourself peace. You can find freedom without having the discussion, without having them understand you, without anything in that direction. You see, you don't need them to feel better. You don't. You really don't, I tell you. You don't. Don't force yourself to feel better. But it's about choosing yourself finally. Choosing yourself. Whatever pain you have gone through, however this has looked for you, if you got maybe an emotional abuse where they were not really there for you, where they left you alone as a child, remember how you have felt there. Remember and acknowledge that, and do that daily if needed. Do that daily, because you see, those are the basics of where we stand right now, and we cannot change the event. Okay, we can't. What has happened happened, but now when we are growing adults, when we are growing up, we are taking the ways how we communicate from there, the ways how we show up, the ways how we behave, we have it from there, because the records from there, from this time frame, is a template that we have not actually changed, and it's still playing. They're still playing it. So we have to bring our awareness to that, and obviously this opens up a lid full of suppressed emotions, because we haven't dealt with it, we haven't acknowledged it, we haven't seen it, we didn't want to see it. And on top, we were maybe be ashamed of them and being punished for trying to open up, trying to find relief, right? Maybe you even got told that something is wrong with you. You are wrong. What you're doing is wrong. And when we hear those kind of sentences from people who are close to us, it's extremely painful. But don't forget, you have heard all of this in the past. It's nothing new, I tell you. Even if they haven't spoken that, even if what they're saying right now may be painful for you and you think like this is like next level, believe me, you have heard it before. And you just can't remember. Maybe it was slightly different word, maybe it was a different kind of way. For example, if you haven't showed up the way how they would have liked you to, maybe they gave you silent treatment, kind of like deal with yourself there. And when you're normal again, you can come. It's kind of like no nourishment for your soul, no nourishment for who you are. It's kind of like you're left alone with yourself. But the thing is that what has happened, happened. But you can change the way how you behave now. You can change what you're giving out now. You can change to be more soft with yourself, to be more gentle with yourself. Those are the things that you need to do in order to love yourself more, because all those templates we once used are the ones that come from there. They come from early days. And those are the most trickiest one, to be honest. So if you are looking to move on, if you're looking to find more peace, right, then you have to look into those days. You have to look into, and when you're saying now, but you can't remember, you don't remember. You don't really have to remember, because your body does. The body remembers, and the body remembers this far where you don't need to remember the words. You will meet people, and then all of a sudden you will react a certain way that may be over the top, that may be more than someone else would do if they haven't been somehow triggered by it. You have to watch out for those moments where people are triggering you, because that is where your body shows, hey, look here is something that you need to be aware of. Here is something that is bothering us, me, right? And when you're doing this, start to observe and start to be as judgmental free as you can, because really we need to get off of this judgment, judging everyone for who they are, what they believe, where they are going. I mean, this is not the way to go. This is not the way to show up in this world. We have done this way too long. And kind of proving everyone else that they're wrong. You don't have to prove that you're right. You don't have to prove that your story is right. Because of course your story is always right? Because from your perspective, it is right. So we are actually on the end of this video. I want to give you one additional thing which has really helped me, and it's the If you know this one, it's the Ho'oponopono prayer. It's a Hawaiian prayer, and it's about 4 sentences, and you can find it on YouTube actually. It's very, very calming, and it goes something like, I'm sorry, I forgive you, I love you, thank you. And those are kind of sentences or words that are very, very peaceful when you're doing this in a repetitive state, and when you're repeating them, and when you start to allow your body to move those emotions down back to the earth to ground you, right, to transform. Because remember, you are the creator of life. You are the creator of your own story. And so the more you're working on those, finding relief, finding peace, relax your body and stop stressing yourself all the time. Relax. And the more often you are doing this, you will find the peace that you're looking for, believe me. And you will find the people who actually acknowledge you for who you are. You don't have to go all the way back to there and kind of trying to correct. There are times when you don't need to correct anything. You don't have to go back there. You don't have to do that. Maybe at one point there is the time to do so. But until then, make sure that you're good. You know, from here. Make sure that you're good with yourself. Alright, I actually hope that this video has helped you. And let me know in the comments section, is this something that you need to hear more of? You see, when we are looking into the future and where we want to go, we do have to clean up a few things before we can really move on and really start to go into that direction. Sometimes the goal is to find peace, to find freedom in yourself, freedom, okay? And there is no massive goal behind it. Well, actually for me, this was the biggest goal ever. I didn't want to be in this, and I need to rush, and my nervous system was all over the place. And it's not good for you. And you feel crap all the time. I didn't want to have that anymore. So this was my highest goal actually. So check. Thanks so much for watching, and consider to subscribe if you want to hear more things like this. It's really helping me too to find the content for you that helps and supports you on your own journey. And yeah, thanks so much for being here, for staying on track, and give yourself some grace for doing this work as usual. And I see you next time. Bye bye.